welcome to your day off. My name is Corey, and of course, I'm sitting with my best bud, Tone. What's up, man?
What's up, brother?
So, we've been talking a lot about. Well, listen, our DM has blown up about this coronavirus thing that's going on, and although we appreciate everyone reaching out, and what should we do? What should we do? What should we do? Certainly we're not the experts.
No, and because we do talk to a lot of experts, we thought it was fitting to bring someone today.
Yeah, absolutely. The number one question that we get is, what the hell do I do with my business? So with that being the question, then, we're going to bring on Peter Mahoney and Heather Bagby. They're the president and the vice president of Summit Salon Business Centers. And, for years and years and years, Summit has been the consulting company or the consulting business when it comes to, your business.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of them on here giving, excellent professional advice, right? Mm-hmm. And they've done their homework, they've done their research, and they are truly the experts.
They are the experts, and what's great too is we just printed it out, but they have a great resource on their website about what the hell do we do, and I think they answered a lot of those questions. So enough of us. Let's kind of get in, and we have some questions too from Instagram that will get answered as well. But let's get in with Heather.
So we'll get into those at the end of this conversation if they don't get to it first.
That's perfect. Sounds awesome. So Mr. Peter Mahoney and Heather Bagby, welcome to your day off, and thanks for making this last minute time for us, because listen, the industry's hurting right now, and I don't think anyone knows where to turn.
Yeah, we're first of all, our pleasure to be on to help. Obviously we're as concerned as everybody, being salon owners ourselves. We're definitely in uncharted waters, and I think at any time in crisis, the fear of the unknown is always the greatest fear. And so the more you can be proactive, plan ahead, put a process in place that you can follow, try and stay as calm and rational as possible, that's the key. And so that's really our focus now is making sure that we protect the health and safety of our people and our clients. But at the same time, I just want to remind everybody that these steps are necessary to try and control the spread of this virus. But the truth of the matter is 80% of people who contract it have very little symptoms. It's like the flu, and then it goes away. But, people who have compromised immune systems and the elderly are at high risk. And the real problem here is that if we don't slow the spread of this, the health system simply can't handle the number of people who are going to require medical attention and respirators. That's really the issue here. But for the average person, I think we have to remember that the risk of serious health is not really there. So these measures are preventative more than anything else. And I think we have to keep that in mind as we're working through this and try to manage our stress level, because I think there's a lot of reaction to this, and we just have to keep a calm head and follow the process. And that's really what Heather and our team at SSBC have been working on is, let's take a rational approach to this. Let's do everything we can to minimize the social and the financial impact as we work through this, because it will pass. We're going to get past this. We're very resilient people, and we're going to figure this out.
That's awesome, Peter. I mean, that's great headspace to be in, right?
Yeah.
But, So Heather, man, what have you guys been up to? I know you guys have been working endlessly for the last, 5 days or something, or since this thing broke, but you guys have put together some good resources. So just kind of tell us, what have you guys been working on, and how are we calming people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, just to reiterate what Peter said, one of our mantras at SSBC is the leader always has to be the calmest person in every situation. And I definitely understand that, we're in some space where it feels very scary because we don't have the answers. But since we don't know exactly what's going to happen, I think preparation is everything. So we sort of have been working on a resource checklist, which I know you guys downloaded. Everything from thinking about alternative schedules for your team. We know a lot of, obviously all the schools are closed, so we have a lot of parents inside of our companies. If people do want to enjoy services at this time, then maybe we need to look at some difference in our evening hours. We definitely put out a bunch of resources on small business administration, the Department of Labor, scripting, social media recommendations, because I think as you guys know, based on the venue that your podcast is in, we need to be careful and really choose our words. We talk a lot at SSBC about intelligent verbiage at all times. I think right now that is probably one of the most important things that we could follow. So we put out a whole list of social media best practices. And we're also working internally to arm salons with good verbiage for their guests as well as their internal team. And the thing that Peter said, which is what SSBC believes in, is that we believe in people first. We always talk about we grow people for a living, and quite frankly, our people are our biggest concern. So we want to make sure that any professional in our industry is working in a salon environment voluntarily because they feel good about being there. Just like I think you guys would agree, we want the guests to feel good about being there. So we've created some sanitation protocols as well that we feel, could really make sure that that environment is where it needs to be.
Yeah, we were just reading over those too, and it's just such great practical advice. Heather, can you kind of give our listeners where these where your the preparation what are you calling it? I don't know. Where can they find it?
Checklist.
Yeah,
absolutely. So if you go to summitsalon.com and then it's /get-prepared/ it will take you right to that resource. Alternatively, though, if you just go to summitsalon.com, it's going to pop up on the home page. It's going to say Get Prepared. So it's very easy to find and it's very accessible. And, these resources are open to anybody in the industry that would find them useful.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to find them useful. Thank you guys for doing that. And thank you for making it. Tony and I were talking about, we've been talking since we started this podcast, our whole thought about this was to bring our community together as a community. And I'm just giving you guys high fives and thank you for making this available to everybody. Because, we certainly know that Summit is a subscription-based program, and just to open this up for the entire industry. Thank you very much.
Yeah, our pleasure. Something that's not on the website yet, and we probably will prepare this and put it in there, is a cash management checklist. So I wanted to just touch on that briefly, because in the event that we have to shut down all non-essential services, which is happening right now in some communities in Canada, which means salons are being forced to close, then the question is, how do you survive this? So I would encourage salon owners proactively to make that assumption now and take a look at their cost base and say, okay, if I had to close my door today on a monthly basis, what would it cost me to stay in business? So what are the things that are still going to have to be paid? I would encourage salon owners to lean on credit. So in other words, they may have to defer the payment of their utility bill, but at the end of the day, what is it they're going to have to pay? And if that is, $10,000 a month, then if you got 20 grand in the bank, you could survive this for 2 months. But if it's $50,000 a month and you don't, then you need to be thinking about that right now. And so, for example, if you have the ability to extend a line of credit with the bank at 3% interest versus putting this stuff on a credit card at 19% interest, you should be contacting your financial institution now and trying to figure out what avenues are available to you that are going to be most cost effective. Talking to your staff and being honest with them. If we have to shut down, what's the availability in their state in terms of unemployment insurance? Is there a waiting period? If employees can go on unemployment insurance immediately, then you may be forced to take advantage of that, because I doubt the average salon can carry their payroll for an extended period of time. So this is going to take a high degree of cooperation and teamwork from everybody involved in order to get through this. Because my feeling is, and I'm an optimist, but I really believe that, this could go on beyond a couple of weeks. It could go on for a couple of months. And so I think, we want to plan for the worst case scenario and then hope it doesn't happen. But I think now's the time to be thinking about these things, not when they're on top of us, right? We got a little bit of time here to really try and figure this out on a case by case basis.
Yeah, and those were the questions, a lot of the questions that we were receiving, those type of questions. Like one person said, hey, I have a new business. I'm still paying off debt. How do I protect myself? And obviously, if you take those measures, that will help greatly.
Yeah, and I do feel like the entire economy is in this situation. It's not just us. It's every industry out there. It's every small business out there. It's every restaurant out there. So I'm confident that the federal government is going to step in and they're going to have to do something. But we all know the kind of bottleneck that's going to be created here. I mean, administratively, access to these opportunities may take months. And so even if funding is available, it may take time to access it. So I think you got to be prepared for that, and ask yourself the question: what's within my control right now that I can start to take advantage of to protect myself and my business and my people. Right.
So, Peter, I mean, like, I know as we're talking, the bill hasn't passed the Senate in the U.S. here yet, but there's a bill that's on the floor this morning about freeing up funds for the SBA to give out loans. Now, would your recommendation be that you get in on those loans even if you don't need it in the immediate time? Because at some point the funds are going to run out, and like you said, there's going to be a bottleneck. So, would your recommendation be just go ahead and apply for those loans and see what we can do with it?
I would 100%, especially if you can pay them off. So if we get through this and there's no consequence, you don't need the cash, you can pay the loan off. Yeah, because to your point, take advantage of it now, because the funds will dry out at some point. I would also shut down all unnecessary spending immediately. I would shut down all credit card spending, because you can little afford to be incurring debt at 19% interest if your cash flow is going to be muted at some point. So yeah, every little thing you can do to conserve funds is going to be essential at this time.
That's great advice, man. Heather, so what back to the scripting and stuff, is kind of like the overall thought about the scripting is just to stay calm?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've given some specific scripts for the front desk team to utilize, as well as the salon teams. So just assuring people that the companies are taking additional measures and sanitations, assuring people that if they feel more comfortable rescheduling their visits, that we support that, waiving all cancellation fees. I think that's very important to participate, and, let's support our community as well as our team. But having said that, working to reschedule those guests, even if they have to be rescheduled again, because the more we can obviously get them scheduled for future visits, then when this does start to alleviate, that we are ready to take those guests back into our salon companies.
That's great, man. That's great advice.
So how about the employee? Like, we have one salon owner reach out. He goes, how can I take care of or help take care of the employees without putting myself in a bankruptcy risk? So he's really concerned about his guys, but, he doesn't really know necessarily how to help them.
Yeah. In the United States, I think one of the things that there is a resource on our list, and it's with the Department of Labor. So if they go to, it's dol.gov/coronavirus, there are some measures that are being put into play for federal unemployment because of this particular instance. And they basically set up 3 different categories. So one is if an employer temporarily ceases operations due to COVID-19, preventing employees from coming to work. So that would be if a company decides that they need to close. The second is, what if you have a staff member who's quarantined with the expectation, of returning to work after it's over? So there's a measure there that they would qualify. And then an individual leaves employment due to risk of exposure or infection because they need to care for a family member. So not necessarily they've been exposed, but they can't risk being exposed because they have to care for other people. But as we all know in the United States, that's the federal unemployment stance. Now each state has a different requirement. So I would really encourage that salon owner to get on that Department of Labor website, go on to their state portion of it, and take a look at what those options may be in the event that any one of those things might occur, to see what they could do to allow their team to maybe a temporary layoff or a temporary leave of absence so that they could go apply for that unemployment.
I didn't even think about the unemployment angle, when everybody's been talking about this. I didn't even think about that, but that's certainly an option, isn't it?
Yeah, but that even takes some time.
Yeah, right.
It does. So I think we're, as Peter said, we're a little bit in some uncharted waters because we don't know what the delays would be in that particular situation. And we certainly don't know if every state is going to jump on board, although it's looking like that's a possibility. So information is everything. Definitely, before making any of these decisions, we'd really encourage salon owners to do their homework, get on these sites, and make sure that when that's occurring, that they know what all of their options are.
It's just there's just so much there. So, I mean, in worst case scenario, let's say, and Peter, you said that there's some people in Canada that are already doing it. Worst case scenario is that, you get quarantined or the government says that you can't work. I mean, like, how do we keep our business open?
Well,
not open as far as the doors open, but, how do you continue on as a business, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're really in uncharted waters here. You have to reduce, we call it the burn rate. In other words, if the business is closed, what's it costing in cash flow to keep it closed? So in theory, you still got to pay the light bill, you still got to pay the landlord. Quite honestly, I think what businesses are going to do is they're just going to defer making those payments as long as possible. But let's be clear, there's a limit to how long this can go on for before it's going to start to cause some serious havoc. The amount of aid that the governments are coming forward with is enormous, but even they have a limit at some point. So the trick is, though, we have to remember this is not an airborne disease. It can only be passed from human to human. So quite frankly, the faster everything gets shut down, the faster this thing goes away. And that's really what it's about, is if we trickle it down, then we're going to continue to proliferate the spread of it. And so as dramatic as it seems, I read something recently in Italy with that outbreak. They had a massive outbreak. They quarantined an entire city, and I don't think they've had any new cases outside of that city. So isolating it is really the key. But you're right. I don't think I can tell you right now, we couldn't afford to close our business for forever, that's for sure. So that's why we're conserving cash. We're cutting all unnecessary expenses. We're asking our people, as our business slows down, we are going to be forced to lay people off and have them take advantage of the government aid that's available. And we're all going to be sharing in this pain to some extent. Otherwise, I could say it to you this way. If we only have to deal with our fixed cost base when we're closed, we can sustain the business for much longer than if we had to deal with the fixed cost and the labor.
Right.
And so if it's about survival of the company or the salon, then everybody's got to understand that and take advantage of every resource that's available to them to try and sustain this as long as possible.
I know I have clients that reach out and say, hey, are you still open, or what can we do to maybe help you? I mean, could I steer them toward gift certificates or, things that is bringing money in at the time now so it can help me cover costs?
100%. Selling a future gift certificate would definitely generate revenue. And that might be that, I love that idea. That might be something that would be definitely worth exploring, right?
Yeah. I mean, at least it keeps the cash there a little bit. Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we've got some Summit salons that they're sending out opportunities for people to purchase gift cards, and also just offering things like the opportunity to pre-pack retail goods, and they could just come to the door and get them, and we can take care of purchasing them over the phone. If people aren't comfortable coming in the space. So wholeheartedly. And I love what you said. What a beautiful thing that some of your clients are reaching out to you saying, how can I help? I think at the end of the day, we are so fortunate to be in an industry where not only do our employees make good decisions about, their own livelihood, their families, but our clients really care about us as well. So this is a time to say, hey, yeah, that would be a wonderful gesture if you'd like to purchase some gift certificates or gift cards.
I don't know, and Heather and Peter, I don't know where Summit stands on discounting services, but let's say we get through this in 6 weeks, and all of us, it's not just hairdressers that are impacted by this, but the entire community is impacted by this. And if you live in a community that might not be able to afford your services anymore, how can you kind of curtail those costs to your guest?
Yeah, so I think it's twofold. One thing is I think right now we need to be very, very careful about how we're offering different promotions and different things. So, just take a look at those social media best practices that we put out, because there is a little backlash too that you guys may have been seeing with businesses that are choosing to stay open. So right now, talking more about safety and sanitation, but most importantly, just following a very clear set of guidelines. But yeah, when we're coming out of this and people are getting ready to come back into our businesses, then it's definitely we're going to have to look at our budgets to see how much we can offer. But I don't know about you guys, but I think that when we come to the other side of this, we've got to have the heart to give to get. We need to help everybody in our community as much as we possibly can. And if that means offering, some different marketing initiatives that we weren't planning, then, to me, I think it would be wonderful to start thinking about how we can encourage people to come back in when we're at that point in time.
I love that. Okay. Let's say we all get shut down, right? Like our business gets shut down. What practices that can we do to be more proactive for our business and during a shutdown than being reactive during that shutdown? So if we're sitting at home, what can we do to kind of like be proactive in our business? Does that make sense?
I think so. Do you mean in terms of messaging that we would get out, or?
No, I just mean like, what can you do to continue to strengthen your business? Like, whether it's like, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but whether it's like continued education, online education, if it's to do a Tony Robbins thing or what. Do you guys have any suggestions or ideas, or spend more time on the Summit website or anything like that?
Yeah, if you're talking about the salon professional community, absolutely. Our trainers, obviously, we have a lot of classes that are planned. We do about 284 classes throughout North America every year. So, we're moving into some virtual capacities, and absolutely, we're going to be encouraging people to, listen, if somebody's not going to be in the salon company, this is a great time to maybe shore up some of those skills so that when they jump back in, they're ready with just a refreshed attitude, maybe some things that they can put into motion right away.
I love that.
Yeah. I also think, what Heather said earlier about the leader has to remain calm. I mean, I think communication. So even if you're shut down, we need to continue to communicate with our teammates. We need to have, be empathetic of their situations, and we need to try and sort of triage how we're helping people based on their circumstances. Because you want to maintain that community, whether you're open or not, because you need that community to come alive again at some point in the future. So I think hunkering down your hosts and not communicating is not the way to go. I think the leader of the salon needs to make sure that they have a voice, whether you have a private Facebook page and they're posting on it every day, and being encouraging and talking about ways, whether it's a virtual staff meeting and just to check in and see how everybody's doing. I think all of those things are really important, because you really got to create and maintain a sense of community out there. Even if you can't be physically present, there's no reason you can't be doing what we're doing right now and just checking in with your team and seeing how everybody's doing and supporting each other, right?
That's perfect.
Yeah. Would it be okay if we post links and stuff like that to all these materials that are?
Yeah, 100%. In addition to that, if they go to that Get Prepared portion, they can actually click to be notified when we add more resources. So if they want to put their information and they feel comfortable sharing their email, then we'll notify them as we put additional resources up.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys. And
yeah, it's as much information as we can get to that's the thing, is to keep everybody calm, or just to keep everybody just moving forward as a community. And we are here for each other and to help with guys like you guys that, I mean, you do this for a living, you know what I mean? You help people in our industry on a daily basis, and you help coach them and you lift them up. And we just need to keep having this conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And, I would ask too, Peter and Heather, and I'm going to do it on the spot in front of, thousands of listeners, but, once we start to get through this, can we jump back on and kind of give like best practices to kind of like get, to roll back out, and what that looks like and what that feels like?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all going to learn a lot from this, and definitely, I think it would be worth having a follow-up conversation for sure.
Absolutely.
Definitely. We'll make that happen. And then like where it gets a little sticky, and not to point fingers, but moving into the future, like what would you guys recommend as far as like what your resources are, whether it's saving money or having 3 months of expenditures saved in the bank, like what's your normal recommendation, and does that change?
Well, on our current resource list, as we have it listed right now, we're recommending people have a minimum of 2 weeks payroll. And then hopefully, if our clients have been listening to us over the years, we've always advocated that they have a cash management policy, which, they have several months of expenses in a separate savings account. But we did very clearly say on that resource list that if that's an issue for you, then they need to look into their small business loan opportunities. And as Peter initially said, contact their bank first, find out what their line of credit options are, because they may need immediate access to cash. And things have changed even since we posted this on Saturday. So we want to make sure that people are putting measures in place to, as Peter said, let's hope for the best, but let's plan for this lasting a little bit longer than perhaps we wish it would.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Once again, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for spending, this time with us, and thanks for putting some calm and some clarity out there for the industry. I know this is going to be very well received. And just thanks again, and let's plan on once this thing starts to wind down, let's plan on coming back in and figuring out how to kick the rest of the year's ass, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So give our listeners one more opportunity to how to find you guys.
Yeah, for sure. So if our listeners are clients of Salon Centric or L'Oreal, their sales rep has information, and they can also get it through the Level loyalty site. So it'll be pushed out there. If you're Summit community or non-Summit community, it's totally open, summitsalon.com. It's off of our homepage. They can click on Get Prepared. And if they want to go straight to the link, it's summitsalon.com/get-prepared/.
Awesome. Guys, thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Heather, have a great class today. Peter, I don't know, whatever you guys do in Canada, do it. And,
looks like a nice sunny day from here.
Right?
Yeah, that's just an image in the background, guys. It's actually a frozen tundra there right now. But thanks for having us on, and thanks for helping us spread the message. And, to all the listeners out there, stay calm. Make smart decisions, and just look after your safety and the safety of your teammates and your clients, and we'll get through this.
Thank you, Peter. And you know that you guys always have an open seat with us. So, let's do this. Thank you. And thanks again for joining us on your day off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace and hair grease.